Hi all, hope you're well. I think everyone with two hands and a pulse has spent at least a good few hours with a games console. Be it the biggest high-tech new game released by the biggest game studio in the world, or playing Angry Birds on your mum's iPhone when you were 6. It's human nature to want to play, express your imagination, and create worlds. It's probably why video games have only risen in popularity over the years, and why you'll struggle to pick up any of the new consoles right now. So today I wanted to talk about my history with the medium, the games that have stuck with me over time, and the consoles that have really meant the most to me growing up, and hopefully shed light on why video games really do mean so much to me. My parents pretty much grew up with video games. My dad had an Amstrad GX 4000 and my mum had a few different consoles too, but in the mid-90s, a few years before my older brother was born, they picked up the first system that I remember using, the PlayStation 1. I loved the look of this system, grey all over and with a futuristic look. It was clear that Sony had thought long and hard about the system's look, and that probably inspired the undeniable success of the system. With its CD structure, it was easier for systems to port their games over, and for cheaper prices. So Sony's birth as a video game console led to some unbelievable games. Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasy, Silent Hills, the Crash series. And what did I enjoy? Come on, I was like 4. The Tweenies Game Time was based on the children's TV show The Tweenies, which, looking back, looked absolutely terrifying. Like, why was their skin purple? Did they have some kind of blood clot issue? I think we might have to call an ambulance.
I sprained my...
Oh, no!
It really hurt, but...
You could choose your character, and from there you had to complete some kind of minigame. What I remember distinctly, however, was the sound that these menus made, complete with that PS1 fuzz in the background. Now, this game can be completed in under 10 minutes, but I'm sure I got at least a little bit of entertainment out of it. I mean, the fact that we could actually take this system out and about, that was the dream. You see, we had the PS1 combo pack, which featured a small LCD screen placed on top of the system. It also had a car charger, so we were able to hook this thing up and take this out and about on any long car trip. This wasn't the first iteration of the console, but it came a fair way into the console's lifetime. And talking about later developments to the system, the controller I remember most definitively was the later iterations that featured 2 analog sticks in light grey. Now, whenever I think of video game controllers, this is my go-to. It was sleek, easy to use, and the shapes were so much easier to understand for my little 4-year-old brain. Alongside Tweenies, I remember games like Monsters Inc. Scare Team, the original Rayman. Around a friend's house I would play the Die Hard trilogy and Medieval. But my memories of this system are so vague, I was so young. So it wasn't long before my eyes were quickly diverted to the next big system. And the next system my parents brought home probably ended up being the most important system of my entire life. Unlike the PS1, the PS2 lasted for so many years in my house and continued up until late into the next console's life. This was my go-to for entertainment, and so it should be. The PS2 was packed to the brim with high quality titles and so much more. It was a DVD player, a CD player, a nightmarish trip into hell with the menu set up. Is this hell? Alongside the PS1, the PS2 controller had a simple but elegant setup, but this time with a black design, although multiple coloured options existed too. It truly was a gorgeous looking console, especially the slimmed down black version, which I owned for the most part of my PS2 playtime. Alongside the console also came memory cards, which I distinctly remember having way too many of and not knowing which game was saved on which. Some of my favourite games for the console though included 007 Nightfire. Having two brothers, this was a must. The multiplayer on this thing was and still is untouchable. The fear and excitement of playing on some of these maps represents so much my childhood. This truly was one of my favourite games for the console. The campaign mode? Meh. Burnout, an incredible racing game with graphics that looked incredible for the time. I distinctly remember how tight some of the time limits for courses were on this one. Still, to this day, one of my favourite racing experiences. Buzz Jungle Party. This was just a dumb party game that I remember, but it included a buzzer as part of the system. It was dumb, but it gave you a mini game where you could electrocute your family members. Best game of all time. Dave Mirra's Freestyle BMX 2. Such a good time and features some of my favourite gaming soundtracks of all time. FIFA 07, the best FIFA. I'm not taking any questions on this. You could create your own team and own players and see them face off against actual teams in tournaments. This is, and will probably always be, the game that I spent the most time with on PS2. Grand Theft Auto Vice City, my home console introduction to the series. I always used to think that this game was a little cursed, as pretty much every version I picked up just would not work on our system, but eventually we got one, and then... yeah, I didn't play this one as much... not as much as Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. What a fantastic game. I never focused on the story to this one. It was just so much fun to drive around, explore, listen to the radio stations. There was even a 2-player mode for this one that me and my brothers found once and then never saw again. Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories. This is, in my opinion, probably the most underrated game in the series. It was amazing getting a chance to explore the city of Liberty City in such gorgeous graphics. Truly an amazing experience. Again, I didn't play the story to this one too much, but just exploring the city was so good. The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction. This game ruled so much. The open world to this game was just so fun to explore, to just run around in and break stuff. You could pick tanks up in this game and just destroy them, or just go for a stroll. You know, just normal Hulk stuff. An amazing game. James Bond 007 Agent Under Fire. You could switch off gravity in the multiplayer mode. Best game of all time. Lego Star Wars. God damn, this game holds up so well. The humour, the missions, the creator character section. Both the video game and the original trilogy are both extraordinary games and deserve a ton of love. Midnight Club Street Racing. This game was the fucking coolest thing. Getting a chance to just drive around in a city with multiple players, this game was honestly one of the best experiences I've had on any console, and the speed you could do in this game felt insane. Rayman 2 Revolution and Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc, both amazing 3D platformers, oozing with style and originality. Two of my favourite 3D platformers of all time. The Simpsons Hit and Run. I loved The Simpsons as a kid, and this game was everything you could have asked for as a Simpsons fan. It was funny, original, despite being a GTA ripoff, and made up most of my favourite memories of the console. Although some of those later levels did feel like they were a little too difficult. Oh, now it makes sense. The menu was going into hell, and this is hell itself. SingStar. Okay, I didn't really like this, because I'm not exactly the best singer, but still, I have good memories of so many of these spin-offs. I distinctly remember asking for the ABBA one for my birthday, and to this day, I am the only person to have said that sentence. Sonic Heroes. The multiplayer on this was so fun. The gameplay for this was just so quick and enjoyable. A great time. Spider-Man 2. Probably the best PS2 game of all time. This game was just so good, and the open world was a joy to traverse. And Time Splitters 2. It was one of the last games I got for the console, but I will always remember how well this game played. A fantastic experience and one that I would love to revisit. Not every game on this console was a winner, but so many stood out as being so memorable and made up such a memorable chunk of my childhood. But around the same time, there was a game that I played, loved, and grew to absolutely adore. And it wasn't on the PS2, or actually any console. The Sims makes up so many of my favourite gaming memories as a kid. There was something so fun about controlling a small person and going through adult jobs and chores and ensuring that they didn't piss on the carpet or set fire to their living room. Even though the graphics were so basic, they carry this undeniable charm. I remember not only playing as some random guy going through their life and loves, but also building hotels, going on dates, learning magic with expansion upon expansion upon expansion. The idea of doing whatever the hell I wanted was something that truly grabbed my attention with The Sims. There was no real mission to complete, you just had to live. Get a job, make sure that you have enough friends and little enemies, and make sure that your health is at a decent amount. The game was an incredible experience, and the memories I have attached to it are ones I will treasure my whole life. Also around the same time I really got into Doom. Imagine this, young Harrison on the bus to school, bored out of his mind. In his hands, he has a Sony Ericsson flip phone, his first phone, and somehow, crammed onto this device, is Doom. This game blew my mind. Yes, it was tiny, and you could barely see what was going on, but it played so incredibly, and it was so enjoyable to control. And for a quick, easy spurt of action on the way to or from school, this game worked perfectly. And to think, they crammed this entire game on a phone that could barely make calls. I loved this phone, and I adore my memories of Doom. Even though the graphics were so basic, there was this charm to them. And even though it was going out and killing, it just felt so fun to traverse rooms, to get lost, to have to look at some sort of walkthrough somewhere, even though the internet really wasn't a thing on my phone at the time. But I'd ask around on the bus and see who knew what the first day that the first Doom came out on to get through to the next door. It was so fun, so brilliant, and I'll always treasure my memories of that. Meanwhile, back at home, the Wii was my first dive into Nintendo. It was the hot new console at the time, and was selling out everywhere quickly. My mum bought it for us as part of her own birthday gifts, and I remember getting this console set up alongside Wii Sports, a perfect packing game for the system. The game included so many enjoyable titles: boxing, baseball, bowling, tennis, and golf was there too. Don't get me wrong, I loved golf, but compared to my excitement to play boxing or tennis, this was definitely the slowest experience of the pack. Alongside surprisingly competent motion controls, Wii Sports was a worldwide phenomenon, becoming one of the highest selling games of all time, and rightfully so. Every game felt like you were there, playing the sports, and just the look of amazement on everyone's face when they saw you swing the Wii remote and the bat would swing in the game. The Wii, and especially Wii Sports, will always be a brilliant time. Alongside that though, our Wii didn't really include many other games. There was no Mario Kart or any 3D platformers or anything. We just enjoyed party games, it was the family console after all. In terms of games, my attention was drawn back to Sony, who had their first attempt into portable gaming with the PSP. The PSP, That was the first console I owned that was mine and mine only. Whilst my brothers both had Nintendo DS's and had their own collection of memories attached to games like Mario Kart and Brain Age, I had the PSP. It was like the darker, edgier counterpart to the Nintendo DS's family-friendly vibe. On my PSP, I had my first Grand Theft Auto experience with Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. Played around in the semi-open world Crash Bandicoot game Crash Tag Team Racing. Played Lego Star Wars pretty much constantly. Drove on open roads in cars and beat teams 50-0 on Pro Evolution Soccer. I have so many memories attached to the system. It came with me on my big school trips, including my first time in Belgium, and I just loved the system so much. It had such a beautiful design too. I remember the analog stick on this one feeling a little weird, but the buttons felt so good to press and the speakers on the system really weren't too bad. I even liked the packaging for these games. The boxes were small and had a unique design on them, although one that was clearly inspired by the design of the PS2 games. It truly felt like I was taking these console games on the go, and I loved it. But that would be my last experience with Sony for a long time, because after that I had moved to the dark side. I'm not sure what made me change my allegiance to Microsoft, but one Christmas, me and my younger brother found ourselves with an Xbox 360, while my older brother moved on to the PlayStation 3. I know most people moved on to the Xbox because of the online features, but to be honest, that never really grabbed my interest. I already had two brothers, so playing multiplayer games were no problem. And for an Xbox 360 owner, I'm also a little ashamed to say that I haven't played a Halo or Gears of War game. Don't worry, I'm ashamed of myself too. The version of the Xbox that I remember definitively was the black model. It featured a touchpad to turn on, which made when my mum was cleaning around the Xbox more stressful than it needed to be. Oh come on mum, we're in the middle of SmackDown vs Raw 2009, the dusting can wait! The controller was a dream. It's no wonder this is one of the most acclaimed controllers of all time. All the buttons felt so responsive and enjoyable to play with. It took a little time to adjust to after using Sony's controllers for so long, but when I was used to it, it melted straight into my hands. This was also the console where I played some of the most fantastic titles of all time. Borderlands. I don't remember a ton of this game, but the style was undeniably so unique and cool. Call of Duty Black Ops 2. What an experience. This would be the game that I would get home and immediately throw on with my brothers and play a few games of zombies or multiplayer. One of the most enjoyable multiplayer experiences, and so enjoyable even to this day. Dead Rising 2. This game was chock full of fun and personality. The gameplay was so solid and fun, and it was impossible to put down once you had started. Far Cry 2. Okay, I just really enjoyed creating your own maps on this thing. Forza Motorsport 3. The racing on this was outstanding. It was so realistic, but also featured an arcade sense of fun in its physics. One of my favourite racing games. Grand Theft Auto 4. Such a great time. Also, side note, but I feel like I'm one of the only people that really loved the driving mechanics in this one. Yes, there was a lot of weight to your car, but it added to the realism. It added weight to the things you were doing in your car and on foot, and matched the dark, gritty vibe of the game. Grand Theft Auto 5, another amazing title that deserves all the love it's received over the years. Just Cause 2, one of the finest and most fun open world games on the system. LA Noire, it featured such a cool way of playing, and it made all your decisions seem so important. I loved this game. Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, oh boy. Two of the greatest games of all time. In terms of the Xbox, these ruled and probably were my favourite games on the system. You can probably guess by my game so far that multiplayer action is very important to me, and these were my favourite multiplayer experiences. I loved these games. Lego Star Wars the complete... Okay, look, I just really loved this game. So what if I had it on every single console? You could never have too much fun. Shut up, Dad! Mafia 2, one of my favourite video game stories ever. I didn't play this one as much, but I had distinct memories of watching my brother play this, and it just looked so amazing. Red Dead Redemption, another great story I really loved. Okay, I just rode around on a horse on this one. The Xbox was filled to the brim with such incredible experiences across all of the games I owned on it. And this was when I was really finding my footing with games. And the best thing is, the console didn't feature any dumb attempts to try and appeal to the mass market through pandering to a casual audience, with a system that often didn't work and featured boring or uninspired games. Wait, the Kinect. It had a camera? It was Microsoft's attempt at appealing to the Wii casual market, but this time using full motion controls. And I bought it. It didn't feature a ton of games specifically for it, but included a ton of issues in noticing the player. I don't remember it being all that bad, but it certainly wasn't perfect. You always had to have the most perfect lighting, and often it wouldn't even notice the biggest movements. However, it did feature U-Star too, so I fucking love the Kinect! It wasn't awful, but in terms of the console wars at the time, it certainly affected Xbox's credibility. But as for me, after the Xbox died out, I moved to Xbox One, but my love for consoles was dwindling. Yes, I played a few games on the Xbox One, but it was mostly just a device for Netflix. My older brother moved on to the PS4 and continued to play a ton of games, but as for me, I just lost that love for gaming. Well, until mid-2020. The Last of Us may seem like a pretty basic story, and it is, but it also made up some of the most extraordinary and special gaming experiences I've ever had. You play as Joel for the most part and have to transport Ellie across the United States, coming across hordes of zombies and other humans who desperately want you dead, and it was amazing. Every second spent in this world was so fleshed out, and you really felt for the characters and their relationship that they were building. There was little downtime, but when there was, you just found yourself reflecting on the emptiness and sadness of existing in this world. There are those glimmers of hope, but they're often short-lived, and whenever you find yourself struggling to find a reason to keep going, you remember Ellie and the hope for a new world. And it climaxes into one of the most emotionally impactful gaming experiences I've ever had, during a time when I, and most of the world, were losing the hope to go on. It truly is one of the best gaming experiences of my entire life. From here onwards, gaming trickled back into my life. I played the Spyro Reignited and Crash Insane trilogy, and I adored them both. And I even dipped my toes into Dark Souls, which, whilst being hard as hell, is shaping up to be an unforgettable experience. So, in 2021, I bit the bullet and bought my first console since the PSP that was just mine. I've only had the Switch for a short time, but in the short time that I've had it, I've fallen in love with the console. With games like Breath of the Wild, the amazing Mario Odyssey, and a ton of incredible multiplayer experiences like Smash Bros. Ultimate and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the system is shaping up to be one of my favourites of all time. But as I grow older, I find myself more and more nostalgic to the older days, where I would pick up PS2 games and have no idea what the experience would be like until I popped it in, or reading about the best Xbox games and searching for them. I know that this is only the beginning of my resurgence and love for playing video games, and I only see it getting more and more amazing, and I can't wait for the many experiences I'm sure are just around the corner. Thank you so much for watching.
What's going on?
Use the left and right directional buttons to highlight a tweenie. Press the cross button to choose a tweenie. You have to decide which tweenie you want to play with. You're just seconds away from a world of fun. Are you ready to play?
No, help! There's a dark evil out there.